you. Honor to all of you.
So, we're back on the topic.
Are we rolling?
13,
Of the 13 questions.
13 questions.
Overview.
So, what are the 13 Socratic questions, and what are they for? What do they mean? Essentially, what is a question is the first topic, and why is a question so valuable? Essentially, from the Socratic approach, true knowledge is understanding the extent of your own ignorance. And so if you have the ability to ask the question, you have the humility to acknowledge that you don't have the answer and you wish to discover it.
I like that.
Yes, so the question is in fact feminine because it opens up to the answer, and the answer is what inevitably comes when we humble ourselves. So questions as answers become divine union, where the answer comes from within and the feminine invokes that answer from within. So the quality of question is directly aligned with the quality of the answer. And so what I've come to understand is that there is actually a formula for cultivating inspiration, revelation, breakthrough. And that formula is much simpler than most people have accepted. Essentially, from the vibration, electromagnetic vibration of unconditional love and gratitude, we cultivate clarity, which is required prior to answering anything or asking anything. Because without the clarity, we discuss topics on this level, and with clarity we discuss topics on this level. And this level encompasses all and tends to the root causes of it, the key issues that we should be focusing on as humanity. So there's a 0 point in that level of coherence in the vibration of unconditional love and gratitude, and that 0 point is where the time-space matrix literally collapses, and that's because you are just in the zone, and we've all experienced it in that moment of inspiration. So in this 0 point, just like in the entheogenic experience, how deep do you wish to go? And so the questions allow us to perceive how many limits we wish to transcend. And so some people ask mediocre questions, some people ask the most expansive consciousness questions. And these questions have led me to understand that there is a method to unveiling the cosmic joke. And we've all recognized the cosmic joke from one aspect to another, being food, raw food, nutrients, minerals. This is where the value is, but no one seems to be paying attention to it. And so we're hungry and we don't know why. It's because we're not getting any nutrients. In the same thing, in every perspective, there are elephants in the rooms that are staring at us in the face. And from the most expansive perspective, there is a giant elephant staring at all of us in the face, and it is incredibly simplistic to perceive. Just a matter of context. So these 13 questions lay out the context for perceiving the elephant in the room. That context is going to be presented to the world now and forever as the new standard of solutions, because there is a formula that is irrefutable which leads to spontaneous planetary unification and world peace, not within 20 years, not within 5 years, not within 1 year, not within a few months even. It occurs instantaneously upon acceptance that the answers to humanity's greatest questions are actually hiding in plain sight. Which means, voila, on off. We recognize what is, not a discovery of inventions and what could be. And we are enlightened right now under specific contexts. And it's just a matter of perceiving those contexts and accepting them for what they are. So, one very important thing, and who knows where we might get caught off, where I have to leave, but the most important thing that I can offer right now, even without the questions, is the elephants in the room that we've accepted exist are experienced as cognitive dissonance. When our belief system can't allow for an idea so simple that it threatens the ego's need for complexity. The answers need to be complex and complicated, otherwise it's too easy, it's foolish, childish. When we find ourselves at a loss of questions, we have given up on the inquiry itself. And that is when cognitive dissonance equals the elephant remaining veiled. And so when embarking on the 13 questions, we must commit to asking the most relevant questions, which critique the picture that the questions together paint. And if we don't, then we submit to the illusion. And if we do, and we have no more questions at the end of this experience, we must accept the inevitable, the self-evident, that we now in fact do have a formula that can be presented to humanity and leaned upon because we trust that it will defend itself. All we have to do is say, check this out. Just look at this. Will someone look at this? And that's what we're now doing. Because you can't say, check this out, unless you've seen it and you understand it. And this is something that everyone will understand. And so the reason why I say everything can happen instantaneously is because we're not dealing with solutions that actually build anything or create anything. It's unveiling something that we truly want to achieve, unveiling the obvious, unveiling our infinite potential. And so the reason why it can happen spontaneously is because it is a paradigm shift of perspective that allows us to see in clarity what we're truly capable of. So this is what we're essentially trying to do. And the introduction is the fact that it can all be perceived simplistically by everyone, and once understood, the mentality changes in the collective. And once the mentality changes, everything else is secondary, by default, follows and unfolds. Question number 1.
Please.
What is the greatest question? Singular and plural. What are the greatest questions? You can ponder that to yourselves, but the value is, in essence, what unfolds within the mind, what unfolds within the self, of focusing our intent in those directions. What is the greatest question for me? Well, the characteristics of the greatest question is that which gives birth to the greatest questions. Because what we want here is a compilation, a database of the greatest questions. We answer those, we're set. So the greatest question by default is what is the greatest question? Okay, question 2. And these are just 13 of what I perceive as the most important questions for creating the context of mission-dependent components for functional unification or functional global cooperation. In other words, the first step into planetary unification has to be on something that everybody agrees on. And once we take that step, we look around and we say, wow, we did it so far, let's see what the next step leads to. And we continue on until we understand exactly to what extent we're capable of agreeing upon things. Question 2. Who am I? Once we let go of our identity, or who we think we are, we open up to everything that we can be, infinity. We are infinite, and so That is the ultimate ego destroyer. Question 3, what is the greatest wisdom? I don't know what the greatest wisdom is, but the characteristics of the greatest wisdom, I feel, are the wisdom that leads to the relieving of the most amount of suffering in the shortest amount of time, effortlessly, while empowering all. So any wisdom that does that to the full extent is the greatest wisdom. Question 4. Are we open to the possibility that the answers to humanity's greatest questions have been hiding in plain sight? Once we accept that, we're able to accept simplicity. Because we have to do anything, we just have to realize. Question 5. Are we open to the possibility that a formula exists for cultivating instant inspiration, breakthrough, revelation, command? We have access to this. We've seen how we can come into these states of clarity, and it's just a matter of process, protocols, methodologies. Once we crystallize those for ourselves, we now do not do anything until we've done those first, because every action, well, right thought, right action, the Eightfold Path. Question 5. What are the fundamental agreements for humanity? One word for each agreement. What do we all agree on? What are the most simplistic concepts? Most of all these questions, by the way, just by asking what is the greatest question, most of the questions unfold within the audience if given enough time. And the answers to each of the 13 questions also unfold in the same way, to which we all self-evidently accept that, wow, we're all that enlightened, because they're obvious. It's just a matter of context, specific questions. So what are the unifying factors? Unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, abundance, cooperation, the golden rule, transparency, accountability, celebration. Question 6. What is the most simplistic, tangible, functional form of global cooperation? In other words, Martin Luther King said, if we can organize for peace to the same extent that we organize for war, we would be capable of incredible things. Organization. What is the structure that is most relevant to global cooperation while in full integration of the fundamental unifying memes, components, perspectives?